So today I want to go over, actually what I want to do is I want to prove that what the Christians today call the Antichrist is actually Israel's true Messiah. I have gone over Daniel 9 time and time again, probably at least 20 videos on Daniel 9. And I encourage everybody to, if you haven't seen them, go and look back on some of my previous videos concerning Daniel 9, and you'll see what I'm talking about the deception. The preacher's deception, twisting, perverting Daniel 9, trying to make it mean something it does not mean, that it does not say. Now, in order to disprove the Christian theory of the Antichrist, I'm going to go over some of the things that Yeshua Messiah said concerning Daniel 9. As I have said before, as soon as I have gotten close to the truth, I had preachers tell me, stop reading Daniel 9. But when you read Matthew 24 and starting in verse 15, you will see that the preachers who told me not to read Daniel 9, they are in the wrong. The reason why they told me is because they knew that I have unraveled their deception. So, Matthew 24 and verse 15, when you shall therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. That's in Daniel 9. Stand in the holy place. Now, in other, like for instance, in Luke 21, verse 20 through 24, says, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies. So the holy place is Jerusalem. The holiest place is where the temple once stood. So let's make sure we understand what we are reading. I'll go back to Matthew. Actually, no, I'm going to stay with Luke. Then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. So the question is, did Nero send Vespasian and Titus to sack Jerusalem? Yes, he did. Did he make Jerusalem desolate? Yes, he did. And then it's written in verse 21 of Luke 21, let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and then they're in the midst of it depart out, and let them that are in the countries, let not them that are in the countryside enter back into the city. For these be the days of vengeance. Vengeance for what? Vengeance of the rejection of Messiah. That all things which are written where? In the prophets be fulfilled. Okay. Verse 24 says, and this is the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away into captivity into all Goyim, Gentiles. And Jerusalem will be trodden down by the Gentiles for 3.5 years? No, that's not what it says. It took 3.5 years for Jerusalem to be destroyed. but treading down, in other words, the Gentiles trampling their feet on Jerusalem would continue until the time of the end. Time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Now we'll go back to Matthew. Yes. Verse 21 in Matthew 24 says, "For then shall be the great tribulation." No, that's not what it says. It says, "For then shall be great tribulation." On who? On Jerusalem. "Such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be." Now listen very carefully. "And except those days be shortened, there should be no flesh saved, but for the elect's sake." Elect? Remember what Paul said in Romans 11, verses 25 through 27? He said to the Romans that the Israelites, the Jews, are the beloved for the patriarch's sake. In Isaiah 43, it says that Israel is Jehovah's elect. So let's not twist the words of Yeshua Messiah to make it say something it does not say. When he's talking about the elect, he is talking about Israel. So for Israel's sake, those days shall be shortened. Does that mean that 7 years will be shortened to 3.5 years? That's not what it says. That's not what he means. Because what we just read in Luke 21, in the same, this is Luke's version of what he heard. It said that Jerusalem will be trodden down of the Gentiles, not for 3.5 years, but until the time of the Gentiles is over. That is, the time of the domination of the Gentiles on the world scene is over. Now let me ask you a question. Has the time of the Gentiles domination of the world scene ended yet? No. Well, you may say, well, Henry, Israel is in control of Jerusalem. No, they're not. Now, how do I put this? What I mean is this. The holy place, the holiest place in Jerusalem. Who's trampling their feet on it? The Gentiles. Who? Which mountain? I'm trying to remember. You have the Catholics and the Muslims occupying the most holy places in Jerusalem today. So to sit here and say that Israel has exclusive authority in Jerusalem right now, that's actually not accurate. Because if it were true, if that were accurate, there would be no cathedrals. There would be no mosques in Jerusalem. They are still treading down. In other words, Israel's tribulation or Jerusalem's tribulation, even though Israel, the Jews have taken Jerusalem back, but the Gentiles are still treading down Jerusalem. So, the times of the Gentiles have not been completely finished yet. Now, it's kind of funny because the other day I did a video and we were talking about the word pleroo in Greek. And what I find interesting is in Revelation, when it was talking about the words of the prophets be finished, they used the word finished rather than be, they used the word finished rather than fulfilled. And here they used the word fulfilled. Trying to change the color. And that was in Revelation, I believe it was 10 and verse 7. Trying to change the color. Of what John was saying. Knowing that John said anyone who takes away, speaking to the translators, anyone who takes away from the words of what he wrote, from him shall be taken away the right to eat of the tree of life. He placed a curse on him. To him that added or took away from what he said. So what they did was both words are right, fulfilled and finished. But see, fulfilled changed the color. It sort of colored the meaning just a little bit. Until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Now, in this case, it should read the time of the Gentiles be ended, finished. In Revelation 10 verse 7, it should read, the words of the prophets be fulfilled. And in this particular case, in Luke 21 and verse 24, it should read, until the time of the Gentiles be finished. You see how clever the translators are? Okay. Now, if you go back to Matthew 24, it says, in verse 29, immediately after the tribulation of those days. Oh, so Israel's tribulation, the one that started in 67 AD, did not end. It continued for nearly 2,000 years, as I have said many times before. Israel's tribulation was not 3.5 years. You see? Shall the sun and moon be darkened, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. Now, I have talked about this in a slightly different manner before. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to say this. If all the tribes of the earth are mourning when they see the sign of the Son of Man, then that means they believe he is the Antichrist, as they say. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the cloud of heaven with power and great glory, and he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet. We know now that in John 10 verse 7, that is the last trumpet, the seventh trumpet. and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. We just read that these people that were in Jerusalem were going to be scattered into all nations. And now we read that his elect are going to be gathered from the four winds, from the four corners, north, south, east, and west. Now, just a reminder, I don't know how many times I've done this, but just for you, those who are new to this YouTube channel, I want to remind everyone Isaiah 43. Let's see. Actually, it's Isaiah 45, but I am going to go back to Isaiah 43. Isaiah 45, verse 4. For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I have called you by your name, I have surnamed you, though you have not known me. So he's calling a people who have not known Jehovah his elect. Checkmate to all you Christians out there. Your narrative, your false narrative of calling upon the name of Jesus is false. You see, he's going to bring in Israel, his elect, the people who have not known him. He's going to bring them into the land of Israel. He's going to pour out his Holy Spirit upon them, just exactly as he says in Ezekiel 39 on the last verse, after he saves them. And they're going to believe after he saves them. You see, the Christian narrative is, you must believe before you can be saved. Well, when it comes to Israel, Israel is going to believe after they are saved. You can sit there and you can say I'm wrong if you want to. But the backup is in Ezekiel 39. Read the last verse of Ezekiel 39 first, and then read it from the first verse to the end. And you will see that your narrative about believing and then you can be saved only after you believed, well, that may apply to the Gentiles, but it does not apply to Israel. Israel is going to be saved and then they're going to believe. No preacher has told you this. None. None of them believe that. Let's go to Isaiah 42. And 43. I will go to both of them. He had to choose somebody out of Israel so that he could save Israel. Where's my... Look, my servant, whom I uphold, my elect, Did he choose his servant out of the Gentiles? No. Well, the Romans would have you believe that he did, because they call him by a Gentile named Jesus. Think about it. His name is not Jesus. Jehovah said he will not give his praise to a false idol. His name is Yehoshua. Jehovah's name is in Yehoshua's name. Zeus's name is in Jesus, and Zeus is a false god. I have put my spirit upon him, and he will bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. Gentiles, I hope you're listening. He will not cry out, nor lift up his voice, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. A bruised reed he shall not break, and a smoking flax he shall not quench. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. He shall not fail, nor be discouraged, until he set judgment in the earth. And the coastlands will wait for his instructions. What is he talking about? He's going to bring them judgment, and he's going to instruct them to do this. It's in verse 6. He says, I am Jehovah, or I, Jehovah, have called you in righteousness, and will hold your hand and keep you, and give you for a covenant of the Israeli people, new covenant. You see, you know the one that's written in Jeremiah 31, verse 31 through 34? That one. You know the one that's written in Hebrews 12, verses, now I have forgotten. But anyway, you can go to Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34 and read it. And Paul explicitly, yes, Hebrews 12, verses 8 through 12. You can read it there too. Okay? That covenant for Israel. You see, to the Gentiles is a light to the nations. For a Gentile to sit here and say that he gets to partake of the new covenant, and that Israel cannot, he, that Gentile, forfeits the new covenant for himself by his own foolish statement, by blaspheming. Yes, verse 7, to open the eyes of the blind, and to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. This particular verse, verse 7, is very instructional. The blind of the eyes, the eyes of Israel have been blinded, but no longer when the new covenant is instituted for Israel. To bring out the sufferers and their children of concentration camps and their relatives from out of those prisons, and not only out of those prisons, but the lands in which the Israelis live in around the world are prisons. That's right. And them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. You see? These places where the Israelis are living right now, including myself, these are places of darkness and prison houses. That's what they are. The nations are going to be ordered to release and bring these people back home. Now, remember what I said about Jesus versus Yehoshua? Verse 8, I am not the Lord. I am Jehovah. Look it up in Strong's Concordance and you will see that's exactly what it says, the proper name of the Elohim of Israel. Jehovah. That is my name. Now, if that is his name, don't call him by any other name. If he is emphatic and he says that is his name, don't call him by any other name. Don't do it. And my glory I will not give to another. No, he's not going to allow Zeus to have his glory. Neither my praise to be given to that graven image that you Christians have in every one of your houses of worship. Now, let's go to Isaiah 43. Now you see why now the preachers don't want you to read the prophets. Once again, verse 1, but now thus saith Jehovah, that created you, O Jacob, and he that formed you, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed you. Remember what we read in Matthew. I believe it was Matthew 24. Talking about gathering all the elect from the four winds, north, south, east, and west, right? We read about it. And here is how he describes it. Verse 2, when you pass through the waters, that's the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, and any other waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, and they will not overflow and drown you. This is when the gathering from all the four corners of the earth is happening. This is when that last trumpet sounds and the angels are sent to gather these elect. Israel that has not known Jehovah. That elect. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned. If Europe becomes a nuclear wasteland, these people will be able to walk through the fire and not be burned and go home. Neither shall a flame kindle upon you. Look at verse 5. Fear not, for I am with you. I will bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. We just read in Matthew 24, from the four winds of heaven, did we not? So, Isaiah 43 is exactly what we just read in Matthew 24 concerning the gathering of the elect. I will go to it again just to make sure. Just to make sure. There are no outs. There's no wiggle room. None. Verse 31, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds. That's north, south, east, and west. And from one end of the sky to the other. Isaiah 43 and verse 5. Fear not, for I am with you. I will bring your seed, that's Israel. We just read it about in verse 3. He's the Holy One of Israel, your Savior, Israel. I will bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Everyone that is called by my name, Israel. El is Elohim. For I have created him for my glory. I have formed him. Yes, I have made him. Bring forth the blind people that have eyes. Didn't we just read about that? And the deaf that have ears. Let all the heathen be gathered together, and let the people be assembled. Who among them can declare this, and show us the former things? Let them bring forth their witnesses, that they may justify, or let them hear and say it is true. You are my witnesses, says Jehovah, and my servant, whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, and neither shall there be after me. So those of you who call your Jesus God, you are in error. There is only one. There is no other. Jehovah as a Messiah for Israel, that he formed from the womb by the power of the Holy Spirit, and he obeys every word from the Father. The preacher who told you the other narrative, he lied to you. He lied to you. Don't listen to the ones who lied to you. They are the same ones that are claiming that Israel's true Messiah is actually their Antichrist.